Do you remember that movie with John Cusack where he held the radio to the girl to get her back?
Yeah.
I can't remember the title of the movie.
Say anything.
Yeah, okay. It was the 20th year anniversary. And so they had hired a promo company to do the release of the video coming out on DVD or what have you. And so literally they hired a bunch of guys that looked like John Cusack. And for some weird reason, someone called out late and like, I'm Mr. Promo, Mr. Energetic. They literally, everyone was like, vouch for me, not knowing that he's supposed to be white, tall, skinny with glasses, but I knew the songs and I was definitely, so literally they ended up taking videos of me doing.
You're like, I can be John Cusack. Hold on a second. I just need a long trench coat.
Exactly, literally. So it's funny, last minute they call me up and they're like, oh.
I've always been inspired by people coming together to share ideas. I'm Amanda Younger, and I'll be your host on Happy Hour, where I share a drink and a laugh with guests over stories and our hope for the future of the live event experience. Today, I'm speaking with Rhodes Pierre, promotional marketer turned financial services professional. Thank you to Lamarca Prosecco for today's Bellini. The finish is light and refreshing with a tantalizing hint of sweetness. Created in 1948 by bartender Giuseppe Cipriani, the cocktail's color reminded him of the preferred warm color palette of Italian Renaissance painter Giovanni Bellini, and thus the name. Be sure to continue the conversation with us online at eventspeak.com. Subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify and iHeartRadio, and favorite us on Stitcher to get all upcoming episodes and help others find our show. A promotional giveaway is on, and a lucky listener will be randomly picked from our followers sharing and commenting on our Facebook and Instagram at Happy Hour AY. That's Happy Hour AY. Together, we can make the difference in live events. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Happy Hour. I would like to welcome my guest and good friend, Rhodes, to the show. Rhodes, tell everyone who you are, what you do, and what you're drinking for Happy Hour.
All right. Well, Amanda, thank you, first of all, for having me on the show. My name is Rhodes Pierre, and what I do is I am an advocate, an entrepreneur, an educator. I do a plethora of things, but I'm basically a people lover. so what I'm drinking this morning is a shot of Dorley's.
Ooh.
And fresh pineapple juice with pineapple chunks.
Oh, okay. I'm drinking a Bellini with a Lamarca Prosecco. Ooh. And cheers to you on this fine brunch.
Chicken.
All right.
That is good.
That is refreshing.
Yes.
Now, Rhodes, we met in New York City, actually with a former guest of mine, Curtis Parks.
Yes.
Back when you guys were like managing promotional tours around the city. I think you guys were I've seen you hand out everything, I think. Food, dog food. I've seen you hand out lentils.
Yes.
You've handed out a lot of fun things. And I'm like, what are you doing? But you guys were also producing your own comedy show, right? In Brooklyn.
Yes, we were. Well, it was like a few comedy shows, as a matter of fact. There was one at the Royal Oak that he produced. I think it was on Tuesday nights. And then once in a while, we would produce a show at the Mustang Grill that was on the east side of Manhattan. That was the basement show. That's where we had my roast. And then we had several other locations that we had Stand Up New York. And there's another room that I ran on a daily basis at the Village Lantern. That was with Cooper Rigo and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember running those rooms. So I got into the comedy realm that way.
Yeah. Nice. And even before New York, you were already coordinating fundraisers and shows. I think you even organized a sponsored comedy show and events in Rhode Island, right?
That is correct. Actually, I did a fundraiser for an organization called Ocean State Cares, and it was like a nonprofit that helped people with that were diagnosed with HIV or had AIDS. One of the shows, we ended up raising up like $3,000 with like 20 people in the room. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was like, everyone had a good time. Like the comedians, the audience, like it was like, so that's when I learned, like, when you set up an event, you got to have a before event, an actual event, and an after event. Because it was like, there was so much stuff donated, like from food, booze, and everything. And the place that we had, they like, you know, they at the time they didn't have a liquor food license. So all the food and booze that were donated, they're like, we can't have it here. You got to go. And luckily, one of the guys that ran the door lived like a block away in a loft area with, like, he had a pool table, arcade games. It was like a blown out bachelor's pad. And so we literally took all the food and booze and then had an after party afterwards even. And everyone was like, that was the best. I was like, I can't believe it. And we even made money for the organization. It was awesome.
Pre-party, party, post-party. You got to make sure that you have those things.
Have fun. Like when you're planning it out, like, oh.
By the time there's an after party, I mean, the donations are just flying. They're like, yes, we love this. This is great.
That is true. I did not even think of doing that. Yeah. You're like, yeah, it's a good thing to think about. Like, actually, yeah. This morning, as a matter of fact, I had a person say to me, like, it was, I hope you're not looking for clients on this platform. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I started
wait a second.
Yeah. Yes.
Challenge accepted.
Yes. Yes, exactly. You say it's a challenge. I call it an opportunity.
Got it. I can do clients this way. Neat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. What's probably some of the craziest things that you've done, I think, just like marketing wise? Like I had said, like you had handed out pet food, and
yes.
What's the craziest thing someone's made you do on the streets of New York, like for marketing?
All right. Well, one of the, I think one of the boldest things I did was like, do you remember that movie with John Cusack where he held the radio to the girl to get her back? Yeah. I can't remember the title of the movie.
Say anything.
Yeah. Okay. It was a 20th year anniversary. And so they had hired a promo company to do the release of the video coming out on DVD or what have you. And so literally they hired a bunch of guys that looked like John Cusack. And for some weird reason, someone called out late and like, I'm Mr. Promo, Mr. Energetic. They literally, everyone was like, vouch for me, not knowing that he's supposed to be white, tall, skinny with glasses, but I knew the songs and I was definitely, so literally they ended up taking videos of me doing.
You're like, I can be John Cusack. Hold on a second. I just need a long trench coat.
Exactly, literally. So it's funny, last minute they called me up and they're like, oh, and I don't know. It was like kind of crazy. By me being there, it was like I ended up stealing the show. But it was just literally, we weren't giving out anything, but we were just supposed to be out in the street.
Yeah. Well, I love those. There's been some amazing like flash mob, like guerrilla promos where they have people just kind of, I've seen like Jedi fights in Times Square and Ghostbusters running through the library and
those are awesome. Those are super
anniversary.
Fun. You hire as actors and stuff. Like, but like the best ones are like the car promos and the alcohol promos. Like the car, like I did one for Virgin Atlantic and they flew in actual British cabs. So you drove on the left side and they had out-stickered them like the whole purple Virgin Atlantic. And we just drove around giving people free rides. Like, because you know those London taxis, how much legroom they have? And we're like, how much legroom you have in Virgin Atlantic? You know, it was like, so it's crazy. It's diesel engines. So it's like the whole, like, getting the start. They weren't like, so you could, like, you have to go to, specific, Manhattan. It's not everywhere that they sell diesel. So we have to like know.
How do I fill up the tank? Where do I go?
So that was a really.
There's also not many gas stations in New York.
No. No, well, the ones that sell diesel, especially. We were like, no, you have to know exactly which one that sells diesel. The ones with all the big trucks. Okay, that's the one that sells diesel. But yeah, in Manhattan, they're not that many.
Wow. Well, and I spent some time as a legislative aide in New York for the council speaker, but I didn't know that you were a mayoral aide up in Providence, Rhode Island. How was that? And how did hiring mayoral engagements kind of step you into events?
I was just kind of like, all right, you're assigned to go to that event. You're assigned to go to that event. And you literally, as part of the advanced team, you just show up before. You're part security, you're part reconnaissance, you're part like Mr. Diplomat, liaison. So like literally your job was, and again, they don't tell you any of this. They just kind of hired you and they threw me at the job. Like it wasn't like they had a manual or whatever, just kind of figured
your
out.
skill set is perfect for this. They're like, body, advanced team, go.
Cause it was like, all right, you'd set up like so when his car came, so you always have to make sure that he had a parking spot in front of the event. So he would not have to be looking for parking. He'd be like, come into the event, blah, 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 take a picture, snap that, next event. Like literally that was like, his schedule would go from event to event, maybe back to his office to another event or what have you. But he had to, so you get there, get his parking spot, had to figure out emergency exits, the bathrooms, and emergency exit bathrooms. And like you were there kind of like as eyes and ears beforehand. Like, okay, this is a kid's fundraiser. He needs to have a toy. Make sure you go and get a toy. So when he shows up, here's a toy. Like, hey, here you go. You know what I mean? So he showed exactly. Like it's stuff like that. Like, and well, it was funny when I was working there, I was like still working under the table as a DJ at a strip club.
Stop.
Oh yeah, that was fun. It was like, all right, during the day, it'd be like all the suit and tie up here. And it's because you'd have to drive the car back to the police station.
Yeah.
So because you driving this, couldn't take your car to the event. You take the city car. Ooh, and the city cars, you had actual sirens, and because like if you needed to like get people out the way.
Can I touch this? Don't touch that, Rhodes. Can I touch this? Don't touch that, Rhodes.
That was my like literally like if it was like sometimes we've used it twice. I remember. Like got to move through a light and just kind of go and stuff like that. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So you bring the car back, and from the car, literally the strip club was like right beyond the Civic Center. So I would just go, literally move my car and walk, work, and then go back home. It was
Wow.
I didn't do it too many times. I did it like a couple of times, but it was fun. Because it was like the girls were like,
to the
what?
stage.
Like, yeah, exactly. It was like the girls were like, no, you don't. I'm like, all right, what? But it wasn't like they would wake up during the day to actually go see me at any of the events or whatever. So it was like, whatever.
If they did, no one would talk about it afterwards.
Yeah. That is true. That is
safe
true. Yeah.
Space. You're in a safe space. Well, okay, cool. Well, also around the same time I was working for High Times doing those cannabis cups out west. Of course we were like pushing for decriminalization, but also like spreading medicinal laws and trying to get the movement started for cannabis and especially for medicinal weed. But you moved to Massachusetts and you started to work with the Canna Care docs. You were assisting patients through the medicinal process in that state. And if someone hired you to help people through the process, it must have been a very difficult process.
I will say Massachusetts or lawyers, legislators, congresspeople, whatever they are, they really, really like make it cumbersome for simple things to happen. Right. It's a plant that grows out there. Mother Nature makes it. It pops out of the ground. It's like a tomato plant or whatever, regulated that way. But no, these people had to put so many laws. They're saying it's for the patient. It's for the patient. All right. So how is it for the patient where they have to go to a dispensary, wait in line, or someone has to deliver to them, and they give them to this thing that's in the most child-proof container, like for you to get like one little bud, they put in a little thing, they won't give it to you in a big bag. Like it is like the most cumbersome, like for you to say it's for the patients, it's like case in point.
There's a lot of patients where it's arthritis joint pain that they're trying to relieve. Yeah.
Exactly. Like so my case in point, one of the people that owns a dispensary in Massachusetts, or a few dispensaries in Massachusetts, was actually outlawed and told by the state of Massachusetts you can no longer run nursing homes. That means you're bad at taking care of people. But no, here you go. You have enough money. You can now open up a dispensary. And all the people, a lot of like the sheriffs and the prosecutors that were like all like
that seems about
anti-marijuana
right.
law.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. They become the dispensary owners and stuff. It's not about the patient, which they told you it was in the first place. But again, they use the patient. But I mean, I'm glad it's legal in the sense that people aren't being harassed and they're not going to jail and people can't go to home. And it's on the proper trajectory where the other states are recognizing this. It's like it's a plant. Like what is so wrong with the plant? It's like, you know, if you're gonna outlaw things, you know, disease and poverty, you know, like those are the things that really hurt humanity. You know, it has a symbiotic, really, the oxygen, the carbon dioxide. It's a love relationship, you know, like don't hurt the plant, you know.
Don't hurt the plant. Save the plant.
That's right. Save the plant.
Well, speaking all about the money, how do you think your marketing and events kind of shaped your perception on producing comedy shows? Like, did you realize that there could be like a show formula and did they help you like hone skills on how to market your own comedy shows, which is basically kind of like a side hustle?
Well, the thing is, it's like you got to look at it like comedy is kind of like the psychology for a poor man. All right, you go out there to work your stuff on the stage, and so as far as like combining marketing and comedy, it's kind of the thing. It's like when you're marketing, you want people to like you. You want people to like the product. So you're like, hey, does it like making sure it looks right? And with comedy, you got to like already be strong on the inside to know what you're delivering. But it's also, you want to make the audience laugh. So it's about the audience too, and you connecting with them. But it's still, the responsibility falls on you to produce something, to be funny enough to make them laugh, to evoke that laugh. You know, premise, setup, act out, punchline, and things of that nature. Like this is how it's supposed to, joke structure is supposed to work. And I've worked with other people, like doing comedy workshops and stuff. So the best advice I've ever gotten about comedy and performance was from a lady that did accounting for nonprofits. And she said, musicians, they get it. Comedian and actors, they don't. She says, musicians understand whatever it is that they do, it has value. Like they're gonna play a song, they're gonna go somewhere. Even if someone didn't pay them, they're gonna put out a hat so someone puts some money in there to put a little value. Comedians and actors, she says, you put a camera in front of them or put them on stage, they don't even ask for it. They're just like ready to act. And she's like, no. Exactly. She's like, you've got to prove.
You don't say.
Yeah. So she says, you've got to be like, no, put a value to it. Be like, you got to get paid for it. You've got to say, no, this is not coming for free. And you've got to put a value to yourself. And she was like, if you break it down as kind of a formula, because I took that concept and was like, if you look at a band, you've got the lead singer, the guitarist, the drummer, you know, whatever. These 4 people, 5 people get on stage and they occupy 45 minutes or 90 minutes time set. And all you have to do is break it down to comedians. There are 5 people. There's the opener, the MC, the middler, and the closer, all right? And then so if they learn to act together, like play off jokes, the last guy says, instead of like comedians, usually they just sit there and they're waiting for themselves to go on, not paying attention to
this is my set. This is what it is.
Exactly. This is it. Instead of focusing on the show as an entirety, because something that someone said in the audience that's funny, and if you can just tag it and then boom, you get an even bigger laugh. And sometimes it just builds, and it builds a rapport where you know the other person's set and what they're going. And it's like, if you sit there and actually critique each other and learn, because I would say, you know, Mike Lawrence, Sean Patton, and Mike Lawrence, Sean Patton, and what's the other one? But three of them, they all moved from Louisiana. I can't remember the third comedian's name, but they're all like big comedians now, Mike. And Dane St. Germain.
Okay.
They all moved. They all moved from Louisiana because of the Hurricane Katrina, and they lived together in New York, and they went to all their open mics together, and they developed together. They got better together, and it was like going, like you could see them, like, and then now they blew up, and they're all individuals, but because they worked, you know, they could see each other get better and like critique each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think marketing wise, you understand selling a product. And I think with comedians and actors, it's easy to say you're now the product, but it's another thing to say you're part of a show. The show is the product. And this is what you're marketing. You have to work with that. And it almost sounds like there's a little improv like workshop involved in that, right? Like you're not just doing your set, you're now improvising while you observe, so that, you know, when you step up, you're able to kind of fill in certain gaps and then hand stuff off to the next guy, just like little bits for their thing. So that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. No, that is very like that. Then to hear you put it that way, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Uh-huh. Well, you have shifted your career into financial services.
Yes.
What triggered the move?
Well,
how did gig work?
You know, like gig work, like since it wasn't going to be around, and I'm like, well, I'm getting older. I should kind of like get something more permanent.
Yeah.
You know, while working at Canna Docs, and I kind of figured I wanted to like switch out because, you know, although it's fun to be a patient advocate and help the patients get their card, I didn't see like the career, you know, going where I wanted it to go and stuff like that. Yeah. Originally, what brought me to Massachusetts was the fact that my dad had gotten sick. And unfortunately, he was no longer able to take care of my mom. And being someone in the Haitian community, like they don't like to tell people when they're sick or hurt or what have you.
Yeah,
and
strong.
So for years, my dad actually, what he was doing, which I think, you know, in hindsight, what we should have noticed, or I should have noticed, was the fact that my mom had Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of hiding it, but she was kind of like high functioning, like, you know, but she'd ask the questions that normal moms and did, like, when are you getting married? When am I going to see my grandkids? Like, how come? She's like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, so I'm like, all right, mom, here we go. Yeah, like I explained to you, you know. So literally, like my dad like hurt himself, and he knew he was going to be in the hospital for a while, and he was like, you got to come and take care of your mom. And I didn't know it was like, I thought literally I was going to leave my.
You're like, okay.
Yeah, I literally thought it was like 2 weeks. He's going to be out of the hospital, be back home. All right, kind of thing. So 2 weeks turned into like 2 years and beyond and stuff.
Yeah.
So what basically happened was like my dad, I went to church with mom, and one of the church people recognized, he was like, hey, where's your dad? And I'm like, well, my dad's in the hospital. And he's like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, well, I'm here to help take care of my mom. And when he said that, he was like, well, what's going on? And then that's when he asked questions about estate planning, finances, and stuff like that. And he's like, if your dad ends up going to the nursing home, what are you guys going to do? I was like, I don't know. I had no clue how any of this worked. And of course,
yeah.
I was like, what's going? He's like, no, dude. It's like, we got to get to a lawyer right now. And I was like, well, you're a lawyer? He's like, yeah, but that's not me. He's like, I don't do estate planning. Well, the Senior Resource Center in Quincy, I gave him a plug. They that's who helped out my parents. But they set up a will, a trust, a healthcare proxy, power of attorney, all that kind of stuff. Because literally, it's like in order for you to move or get into a nursing home, And nursing homes are expensive. Like in Massachusetts, they're about like 30 grand a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on the cheap side. So in order for you to move into a nursing home, you can only have $2,000 into your name. So before, like while he was still in the hospital, so they could move him to a nursing home, we literally had to move the deed of the house, put it in a trust, the whole 9 yards. And there's also a state law where they can do a 5-year look back. There was all these things, moving parts, but luckily everything kind of went through, but made me realize like literally we could have lost everything.
Yeah.
Like, because if you go to a nursing home, they put a lien on the house, whatever property you have, and that has to be spent down before they actually start taking care of you. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you're still living in the house, and like that's just again, estate planning, wills, very important. Like no matter how broke you think you are, it will save your family. Like look at Prince, look at Aretha Franklin. Like he is worth $100 million, but because he didn't have a will in the state of Minnesota, they lose 80% of that. So $80 million just goes right to Minnesota, no questions asked, because he didn't have a will. It's like $1,000, $1,200, folks, just get a will. It's like, because if you don't, you know what the biggest court system in this country is?
No.
All right, there's
Wills?
criminal. No, there's criminal, there's civil, but there's also the third one they don't talk about, probate. Probate is the biggest court system in this country. More money moves through probate court than any other court system in this country. 10,000 people die a day, and out of those 10,000 people, pretty sure 5,000 didn't have a will. The 5,000 don't have a will.
I know that the past year has really raised a lot of the public's concern on financial risks associated with mortality, because COVID's been coming around. And I know that there's been a bit of an uptick kind of like towards, life insurance and just kind of investing and trying to get these things done. Have you seen anything on your side of like people coming now to ask for it?
No, I will say the attitudes of some people are different, but it's still a tough thing because, again, a lot of people don't feel their mortality. I mean, Google search says that the when COVID hit, the search for life insurance went up by 38%.
Yeah.
So my thing is like, yes, I've seen like it's a give and take, because I have had people that have called me, but again, the people that call me, unfortunately, a lot of freaking times they have something that makes them that they're not qualified or they can't freaking get it. Because they're not going to be ready right when you call them. They might be ready a year down the road. They might be ready a week down the road. They might be ready 3 years down the road, but you got to be patient enough to stay in touch with them and follow up and like building that business relationship. Unfortunately, if they wait too long, because the older you get, the more expensive it gets. It never gets cheaper. So every year, you're born, from the day you're born, you're dying. So that's the way the insurance company looks at it. They'll insure you once as soon as you're born, but every day you get older, it just gets more expensive because they know you're closer to dying no matter what. Right. And so for them, it is just kind of about like, okay, let's try to make it cost effective so the insurance company makes a profit, but is still able to deliver the promise that they're giving to their clients. So a lot of people, for them to get that concept of like going like, if they don't have it to hold it or whatever, as soon as like some sort of financial difficulty comes along, that's the first thing they cut out, but it should be the last thing. And that's why we're like kind of financial coaches. We work with the people to make sure that they're within their budget, is something that's sustainable, because that's the last thing I would want from, you know what I mean? For you to start something that you can't hold on to, and it's going to be a waste of money. So it's like you have a car chassis, but you can put a different engine in it. You can put different tires in it or what have you. So it's like the chassis, it might be the life insurance product, but it's how you set it up and what it's going to do, So it's a lot to learn. And the funny thing is, I'm like, why don't they just teach this in high school or elementary school? So you teach this when they're young, people ain't going to be broke in America. I got to say, I know we didn't
get in there. Get in there. You've already been drink. You're down. Tell us.
I am still saying thank you, Jesus, for the verdict. All right.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm happy, but it's just kind of like, it's about holding accountability of treating people with dignity and the humanity. Where's the humanity? It's like $20 bills does not mean you should get killed. And especially like 9 minutes, it's the first time where they actually said, okay, guilty. Like, you're wrong. This was like the thing about America, people don't realize that there's something called jury nullification. Madison argued that if you had the jury and it's a government for the people, by the people, and of the people, when those 12 people sat in the jury, they have the same power that the interpreting the law. Like, to say, no, the law is wrong, my friend, or the person, we feel it right. And jury nullification worked, unfortunately, terribly with the Southern Reconstruction and lynching or whatever. They'd be like, nah, I know the law says that, but whatever, we're gonna let him go free or whatever. But if you sit in the jury, you can actually nullify or be like, no, I'm not gonna convict based on the law.
Are you still producing comedy shows? Are you doing comedy in Massachusetts?
I am doing some writing. I have not actually produced the comedy show. Actually, the last comedy show I did was for the U.S. Census. They hired me.
What?
They hired me because I was Haitian. They're like, yo, can you do some comedy? Try to get people to, do the census in Creole. I was like, okay. So it was my first time performing comedy in Creole. It was for a live web audience. I don't know how the reaction was, but I got paid. I'm like, you gonna pay me just to do my jokes on video in my house? Just make sure it's well lit and people can hear me.
So again, tell people that they need to be represented properly and fill out the census form.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Literally, that's what I was telling them. I was like, don't worry about it if you're not a real U.S. citizen. They ain't going to take your information and send you to ICE and nothing. No, it was fun. It was like, yo, it's like, what, $2 a click?
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not bad. It's not bad.
Have you, so you've been writing a lot?
I am working on something which is going to be like, I'm trying to work on a version of the Aesop fables for kids, but they're going to be financial lessons, like money lessons.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. So I'm working on that.
You're like, hey, I think our education system should be teaching kids a little bit more about this. Right.
Yeah, like exactly. So I'm like, things that really make sense for them to really have survival skills in life, like things about meditation, visualization, like self-actualization, like believe in yourself, don't let people tear you down because they're hurt, hurt people hurt, as they say.
Well, so what's next for Rhodes Pierre? Where can our listeners learn more about you and find you in the future?
I do the We the People podcast. It's been on hiatus, but it's kind of like fun. So I try to highlight business owners, authors, politicians, people that are movers and shakers in the community. People should know about what they've done and stuff, or what they're about. And then so other things that are in the work. Oh, I'm performing weddings now. I'm an ordained minister. Yes. So I've got I'm marrying a cousin on June 11th, and I have another wedding scheduled in August. And so that's another, because what I've decided to do as part of my financial practice is if the couple that come to me, they have to do a little financial literacy couples thing, because the number one reason people get divorced is because of finances.
Yeah.
So it's you got to make sure that they're on the same money mindset. So that way it's because you know what? All three of my weddings, solid, not one divorce. Learn your limits right off the bat, because that's what
find your boundaries, define them.
Yes, because that's what keeps you alive, is knowing what you say. Learning to say no will keep you alive more than saying yes.
It's true.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm signed up to do a show for it's Stop Asian Hate, and it's May 1st in Lowell, Mass, at UTEC. Basically I signed up for it. I'm not sure, I haven't gotten confirmation, but I'd be doing that. And like I said, I'm gonna get my show We the People going again as well. And we is spelled like in the French version of like we meaning French. Like yes, the people.
That's
we,
right.
the people. So yeah,
man. We'll make sure everyone can find you. It's not a problem. And if you are in the Southern Mass area, everyone should definitely hang out for Stop Asian Hate, because that's important as well. So feel free to find your cause and do the right thing, you know? And I can't wait to touch back with you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I totally enjoyed this. Like, yes.
But as we do at the end of every happy hour, when the glass is empty, we're pretty ready to do a little dance. Will you dance with me with my little outro music?
Why not? Why not? What kind of music is it on?